This is a documentary on the K Records label. They're an independent label out of the northwestern United States, and it may not only be educational and entertaining, but hopefully it will provide a bit of inspiration to all of you struggling artists out there as well. You might wonder, why is K Records so doggone famous? It seems like almost all their bands are unknown and nameless. But having big famous bands is the opposite of why K cares. The idea is you should have your own cool little scenes everywhere. In 1980, Northwest US is where the tale begins. In the quiet little city of Olympia, Washington, there's a sort of hippie state college there called Evergreen, with a food co-op and a community radio station. John Foster was the important man at Radio KAOS. He was the first person to say independent music is the realest and the best. A young fanzine writer named Calvin Johnson was totally impressed. He said, I can start my own indie label with these new cheap things called cassettes. So summer '82, K did its first release. It was called The Supreme Cool Beings, with future Beat Happening member Heather Lewis. No distributor would distribute it, and no one mail-ordered, but it sold all 100 copies just in local stores. And then K's second album was called Danger Is Their Business, and it was just a bunch of local townspeople singing a cappella onto cassette. At the time, this was even more rebellious than having a mohawk and leather jacket, and Calvin and Heather formed Beat Happening with a guy named Brett. They played and sang like little kids. It was really homemade and pathetic, except that the songs were really great, and Calvin was really fearless and magnetic. In fact, he was so magnetic, he soon became like the leader of a cult, and Olympia soon had a whole homemade community happening as a result. And then in 1984, Calvin launched his master plan. He said Beat Happening would be huge if they went and did a tour of Japan. So they went and played Japan, except nobody cared. Though they did find a similar homemade band called Shonen Knife there. And this showed that every place could have its own unique youth scene. K could just be like the link between an international underground team. Unrest versus the Gossip, Modest Mouse, the Pastels, the Headcoats, who else? Built to Spill. You don't need corporate one-size-fits-all kind of entertainment, because K is like a library card to lots of little scenes with no one big and famous. That's a documentary on K Records.